Hey guys, it's Technical Freak here, and welcome to episode 48 of my custom story creation tutorial for Amnesia Rebirth. And today we're going to be talking about main menus part 3. So, main menus part 3, we're not necessarily going to learn anything new, more put things together that we've learned in the last few episodes to make something even better. So, in the last 2 episodes, we've talked about config files, and we've talked about the ImGui displaying messages on screen. And before that, we did main menus part 2, which is the more advanced main menus where we can do cutscenes and stuff. So in part 3, we're going to combine all of that, and we're going to make a very cinematic main menu where we can show messages, where we can pan around the map and kind of show off the level a little bit before the game starts. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you reach your main menu and the player can interact with it. And then the point of the config file, we want to use the config file to only play the intro for the first time that the player ever plays the custom story. Because after that, we don't want the player to play the custom story. We don't want them to see a long intro anymore. We just want to show the intro when the player plays for the first time in our custom story. So we're going to put all of that together, make a very cool intro to our main menu, and make sure it only plays for the first time that the player ever plays our custom story. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be a very script heavy episode. That's why we're zoomed in here, because we are going to be writing a lot of code in today's episode. So for those that enjoy the scripting aspect of my episodes, you guys are going to enjoy this one. So let's go ahead and get started. There is a lot we have to get done. So I went ahead and I took the episode 45 download file that I put there as a zip file with a main menu in there, and it had our main menu for main menus part 2. So we're going to use this as our base. So if you guys want to go ahead and download that one and use that one, feel free to do so. Or if you guys already followed along with the part 2 of main menus, you can go ahead and take it from there. But we will be adding a lot more code into this. So let's go ahead and start. First thing I want to do is I'll go ahead and just clear out some of this common stuff, just so we have a clearer script here, as we will be adding a lot of code in today's episode. So I don't have to scroll too much. Let's just kind of clear up some of this here. Alright, so first thing I want to do, let's go ahead and get our config file added here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Again, if you've seen the episode on config files, you guys will already recognize this part. So we're going to do cconfig file, and we're going to do put an @ here, and then we're going to do mp config and close that out and hit save there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go in our setup file here, and we're going to go ahead and load in the config. So we're going to do @mp config with a capital C, and then we're going to do equals clux, and we're going to do get user profile or user config. So that'll get us the config, and it'll go ahead and save it to our config right here. And then at the very end here, we're going to go ahead and do mp config, and we're going to say .save, and then hit put a semicolon there. So that's the basic outline to create our config file here. But we will be putting something here. This effect fade out 0. I do want the screen to start out completely black when we load into our custom story. So I'm going to leave that as 0 because we want it to be completely black as soon as when we set up the level. So now in here, what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and create our entry in our config file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say mp config, and we're going to say dot set bool, and then we're going to say let's put this under the main category, and then we will do quotation marks here. We're going to say intro played. So we're going to call this new entry. We're going to make intro played. So this is why we know if the intro has already played. And remember, it's a set bool because we want a true or false. We want to know whether it's true or not that the intro has played. So we want to create our bool here. So now for the last value here, normally you'd set this to be what you want it to be. Since we don't know if the player has this value or not, this is what we're going to do. It's a little bit clever. It's pretty much going to be like a self-setting variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to say mp config, and we're going to say dot get bool. So we're going to get what the current value of this is at the moment. So we're going to put that in, and then remember the third value doesn't matter so much in a get bool. It doesn't do anything. So we're just going to say false. It doesn't do anything. We're just going to put false. So now what is this going to do? So what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and get what the current value of intro played is in our config file. If it is like true, it will set the intro play to be true. But let's say it doesn't exist. If intro play doesn't exist, this is going to return false, because we're going to get the bool intro played. It's not going to exist in our config. So what it's going to result in is saying false. So when we create it, it's going to be set as false. I know it's going to be a little bit confusing, but pretty much, again, just to run through it one more time, we're going to get what the current state of intro played is. If it does exist, it's going to be true most likely. So then it will be true, and we won't play an intro because intro is true. It played, intro played is true. If we get it and it doesn't exist, that means that we've never loaded up this custom story, and it's going to result in being false. Thus the value will be set to false. So that is what that is there. And that pretty much does it for creating our config file, at least the creation part of it. But now we want to go ahead and talk about what we're going to do with it. So we went ahead and we created this on animation end here in the original episode for main menus part 2. So when we finish all our animations and everything, we go ahead and we show the main menu. But in this case, we want to go ahead and update our config file and set this intro play to be true, because when these animations end, we want to go ahead and update this value here and make sure that our config file knows that we already played this. So the way we're going to do that is pretty much the same way we did that here. So we're going to just go ahead and copy this here. We're going to put it in right here. So main intro played. And instead of doing this get, all we're doing is setting this to be true, because if we finish the animation, that means we indeed played our animation for the first time. So we want to go ahead and update our config file to reflect that. And now in our config file, it will be set to true. So if we ever come back to this main menu again and we do this get bool here, this is going to be true. And it's going to set that to be set that in the config file, and we know right away that it's going to be true. So let's not forget, we also have to put our mp config.save here as well. So we're going to go ahead and copy that and put that right here. So now once we play the animation for the first time, it will not play it again. So now we need to go ahead and put our if statements for this config stuff in our on enter. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go in here and we're going to create an if statement here, and we're also going to create an else statement here. So if and else. So what we're going to do for the if, we're going to go ahead and check the config file now to see if we are going to be playing the intro or not. So to do that, we're going to say mp config, and we're going to say dot get bool, and we're going to say, main, and then we're going to say intro played. So we're going to get that. And remember, in a get for the config, the last value doesn't matter. I'm just going to put false here, but again, the last value does not matter there. So this will get whatever the value of that bool is in our config file. So if intro played is true, we want to go ahead and skip the intro, and we'll talk about that code later once we write some more of the code we're going to be talking about today. But otherwise, if the intro has not played, then we want to play this. We want to play this for the first time. So we would do the whole animation. We're going to make some changes to this stuff here in a moment, so I'm not going to write anything here. I just wanted to get the outline going for us, but this pretty much does it for the config file. We created it. We create our new variable, or get the variable if it exists already. We're making sure to make it true that we've played it at the end once the animation is done, and we have an if-else statement here to check whether or not the intro has played or not. So we have that all outlined for us. So now let's move on to the next thing we want to talk about. One thing before I do move on to that, I want to add a new statement here before all of this here. I didn't put this in the part 2 episode. I actually forgot to, but this is fairly important. We're going to do pause menu enabled, and we're going to say false. So we want to make sure that the player can't really pause in our main menu. If you followed along with part 2 of the main menu, they were able to pause because we never disabled it. So we're disabling the player's ability to pause in our main menu. We don't want them to pause in our main menu because you're not really supposed to pause in the main menu. So we want to make sure we add that. So I'm saying that right now so we can get that out the way. So now let's go ahead and move on. So again, what my whole thought for this this main menu is we're gonna show a lot. We're gonna do a whole introduction where we're gonna show a few messages, fade in and out into different camera animations. It's gonna look pretty cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna need to write those messages. I just want to write 3 messages. So we're going to go to our english.lang file. That's in your config lang folder called english.lang in your custom story folder. So if you need to get there, that's how you get there. And we're going to go ahead and copy. I'm going to copy these two entries I have here. I was doing some testing, so I have some different words here. But what we're going to do is we're going to rename these, and we're going to use these for whatever we want here. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. I'm going to call this intro message 1_1. Or we're going to call this intro message _2. So we're going to say intro message _2. Just it makes sense that way for our main menu. But of course, you guys can name it whatever you guys want. And yeah, this is going to be intro message 3. So we have intro message 1, 2, and 3. So what I think I'm going to do when we're flashing in between the messages, when we're showing the cutscene and everything, I just want to have like a cool little intro. So we're going to say something. We're going to say something along the lines of something like from the creator of the Rebirth tutorials. We want to make it too long, ... and then we'll say, and the TDD, the Dark Descent tutorials, ... and then finally we're going to say Techo Freak presents, ... and then that's going to take us right to our main menu. So I want to flash this message first. So from the creator of the Rebirth tutorials, and then the second message is going to be and the TDD tutorials, and then it's going to say Techo Freak presents, and then it's going to show the main menu. So it's going to look pretty cool. So those are our 3 messages that we're going to put in our lang file. And now we're going to go ahead and start adding some variables here and getting the messages ready to show. So what I want to do first is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go under, I guess we'll do it under the setup function here. And we're going to create 3 global variables here. So I'm going to say bool. We're going to do show intro message. And we'll say 1. And we'll say equals false. So again, if you watched the ImGui episode, this is going to be pretty familiar to you. And we'll just copy and paste this 2 more times and rename it. So we're going to go paste and paste, and we're going to say 2, and we're going to say 3. So this is going to be show intro message 1, 2, and 3. And all 3 are going to be false by default because we don't want to show them until we say we want to show them. So they're going to be set to false right off the bat. And then we need our onGUI function here. So we're going to say void onGUI. We're going to say parentheses, curly braces, enter. And then in here we have to put float AF time step. no Z, just time step. And that's our ImGui function. And now what I'm going to do is at the end of the ImGui episode, I put the messages into their own functions to kind of to not clutter up the ImGui function here. And I'm going to do the same thing. So let's go ahead and work on the first message that we want to print out. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom here. And I guess I could just put a few lines here and just say messages, and just to keep it kind of organized. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll put some lines here just so we know that down here is going to be our messages. So now let's go ahead and create these messages. So we're going to say void intro message 1. So that's going to be our intro message 1. And we're going to make 2 other functions just like this. But first, let's just write out the first one here. So again, we're following along with what we did in the ImGui episode. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if, and we're going to put parentheses, curly braces, and we're going to say show intro message 1. So that's the boolean that we created here, the true or false values that we created up here. So we're doing intro message 1. We want to do show intro message 1. And then we'll write this all out. Again, we did this in the ImGui episode. But we're going to do float. And we're going to say message. We're going to say message fade in and out time. And I do have a note about this variable from the last episode. So I'm going to do 2.0f. In the last episodes that we were talking about this, or I think it was the last episode, in the ImGui episode, I said that this value here was the total time it takes to fade in and out. I was incorrect about that. It was actually this was actually the fade in time only, and it would be the same as fading out. So it's actually double this. It'd be 2 seconds to fade in and then 2 seconds to fade out. So in reality, this is message fade time, I guess we could say. So we'll say message fade time instead. Just kind of change that up to make it more accurate. And now let's go ahead and actually set up everything for the label that we're gonna put on screen. So we're gonna say ImGui, and we're gonna say label data. And we're going to call that label. And then we are going to go ahead and put a semicolon there. And we're going to say label.m font line. We want to line up the font in the center. So we're going to say efont align center. And we'll go ahead and close that with a semicolon. Then we're going to say label.m font. And we're going to do dot in the size. So we're going to set the size of the font. And it's going to be a vector 2f. So we're going to say C vector 2f. And it's going to be, we're going to say 50 and then 50. So that's the size of the font, the XY size of the font. And then lastly, we're going to do the fade out effect like we did in the last episode as well. We're going to say label.m color base. We're going to say equals. We say ImGui underscore fade oscillator color. And then we're going to go ahead and fill this in. So we're going to say label. We will give these different names. We'll say label 1 for the first message, because we don't want to accidentally use oscillators from the other labels. So we're going to say label 1, and then we'll say C color. And then we're going to say 1110. 111 is white, and the 0 here is the alpha, so it's going to be invisible. So we're starting completely invisible, and we're going to eventually reach fully colored, and then we're going to come back. So we're going to do this again. We're going to say C color, and we're going to put this in parentheses. We're going to say 111, and we'll do one more 1 because this time it is going to be fully visible. And then we're going to say message fade time. So that's the time that we want the message to fade in. And then finally we want to do the easing option. So we're going to say easing, and we're going to say linear. and that'll do it. We'll go ahead and close that up. So that's the color oscillator. And then now next we're going to actually show the message first, or we want to select the message and show it. So we're going to say ImGui, we're going to say underscore set trans category, and that's going to be our messages category. Remember, the messages category is this category right here. That's where we put all our messages. So that's messages. And then we'll do ImGui, and we'll say do label ext. And what we want, this is intro message 1. So intro message underscore 1, as it's called inside of our English.lang right here, intro message underscore 1. That's what we want. So we do comma, space, and we're going to say label, because that's the label we have right here. Comma, space, we're going to say ImGui, and we're going to say POS, position. So we're going to do, we want it to start off at the very top right, so we don't want any specific position. We'll just say 0, 0, and for the last value here, Z doesn't matter, so we'll just put 10. I've just been putting 10 for whatever reason, but that doesn't matter. It's a 2D image. And then we'll do ImGui, and then we'll do NRM, and we'll do size. So it's going to be a vector 2F, and we'll say 1, 1. We want it to be just regular, the regular size of the window. And then that does it for the do label ext. And one last thing here, we're going to say if, and we'll say parentheses, and we'll say label.m color base. So once the oscillator reaches an alpha back to 0, we want to go ahead and disable the message. So we're going to say mcolorbase.a equals 0, and then we'll do show intro message 1 equals false. So once we reach an alpha of 0, meaning it turns invisible again, then we will go ahead and stop showing this message. So and with that does it for the intro message 1. We want 2 more of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this easy on myself, of course, and copy and paste. So we'll copy and paste it 2 times here, and we'll change all this information to be appropriate. So intro message 2, show intro message 1, and then we want to change this label to be 2, and this intro message should be 2 as well, along with this statement right here. So those are all the ones we need to change. So we'll change it for this one here as well. So it's be intro message 3, and then we'll do label 3, and intro message 3, and show intro message 3. So those are all up to date. Again, I want the same size font for all of them. Of course, I can tweak each individual one if I wanted to, but I will leave them all to be identical in size and everything. So that does it for my intro messages. Now I have my 3 functions for intro messages. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and add those to my onGUI function up here. So we're going to go ahead and say intro message 1, close it up, intro message 2, close that up, and intro message 3, and close that up. So those are our 3 messages right there. We can eventually, we will at the end of this episode control them, but let's go ahead and move on to the next thing we're going to work on now. So now again, I want to compare this with camera animations, these messages. So we're going to have to set up some camera animations in our level. So let's go ahead and open up our main menu here. So this is our main menu map. Let me zoom you guys out here. So this is our main menu map, and what we're going to do is we're going to add some camera animations in the level. So what I think we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll put one right here that kind of just pans like where this blood area is right here. Then we'll do another one kind of like the one we used to have here when we first did camera animations, that just kind of comes down this hallway right here. And then we're just going to use the same exact one that we already had set up here at the bottom in part 2 of main menus here, the one that goes just down this hallway. We're just going to reuse that one for our last one. So let's go ahead and do this then. So what I want to do is I'll go ahead and select the floor here. Go ahead and select the floor here. I'll focus up here, and we'll go ahead and get ourselves our camera animation here. So we'll put that there, and let's go ahead and drop it, I guess, right here. That's a camera animation right there. It kind of like flattened out. Let me place a little bit off over here. So we're gonna put this here, we're gonna click down, and there it is. So remember, the blue is the direction we're gonna be looking. So let's go ahead and move those here. So I have no real idea exactly where I want these, just kind of want to put them somewhere. So we'll put that right here, maybe back it up a little bit so we can see the blood a little better. I think there is fine, so we'll maybe move a little bit more. We'll duplicate this and we'll bring it over this way. Actually, let's give it a name before we duplicate it. So we're gonna go ahead and call this, I want to call it intro animation underscore, we're gonna call it intro animation 1_1, because this is the first intro animation and it's camera 1 of intro animation 1. If that makes any sense. I just want to keep the naming consistent, but you guys can name it, of course, whatever you want. This just makes sense to me, and I'll go ahead and duplicate it, and I'll move it over here, and we're gonna put it like right in front of this door. So we're gonna pan our way to the second camera animation to this door here. And again, it's going to be intro animation 1_2. So that's camera 2 of intro animation 1. So that's that. We want to change some of this the settings here. So first thing I want to do is, we don't want the player to be able to look around. So we're going to set that to 0. Forward time, I want it to take 5 seconds to go from this camera to the next camera. So we're going to say 5 seconds for that. We want to disable interactive movement. We don't want player being able to interact with anything. I think I left this animation here. Let me delete it. And I think that's it. We will be setting a callback on the second one of both animations, but right now we will leave it. Oh, and we also need auto movement 1. We do want it to automatically move to the next camera. So on the next camera, we want to almost duplicate these. We want to set a look speed multiplier of 0. We don't want the player looking around. Forward time doesn't matter. The player is not going to be able to move anyways in this last, because it's going to be the last camera animation here. We don't want them to move. We don't want them to automatically move either, because it's the last one. And we'll disable interactive movement as well. And we will be setting a callback again, but we'll first lay out the cameras and everything. So now let's go ahead and go over here. And again, I want to put a camera that just kind of goes down this hallway. So we'll go ahead and get another camera animation here. We'll place it down, and we'll go ahead and bring it up here, and we will rotate it. Remember, we want the blue aiming, the little blue arrow inside right here, aiming in the direction that we're going. So we'll put that right there, and maybe move it up a little bit here. We'll duplicate it, and we'll bring it over. Actually, let's give it a name before we duplicate it. So we'll call this one intro animation 2_1. So that's intro animation 2 camera 1. So we'll go ahead and duplicate it now. So now it's intro animation 2_2 camera 2 for intro animation 2. And we'll just stop like right here. We won't go all the way. And we're gonna set similar settings to the other one. No look speed. Forward time, we wanted 5 seconds to get from this camera to the second camera. Auto movement should be on. Interactive movement disabled. And that's that for camera 1. And for the next one, this is the last camera. Look speed multiplier 0. Auto movement 0. Forward time 0. Interactive movement disabled. And that's that. So now let's go ahead and set callbacks on these camera animations for the second one. So when they finish playing the whole, when we get to this last camera, we want to go ahead and call a function. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and generate one here. We can give it a custom name and everything. I'm just going to hit generate here to create a name for me. And then I'm just going to hit copy. I want to move quickly, so we're going to just go ahead and just use whatever the name it gives us. Of course, you can feel free to set your own name. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and paste this in here. So let's do it right. We have the other camera animation function right there. So we're going to put it right above it right here. So we got to paste it. So it didn't quite copy the paste. So let's try and copy that again. and we'll paste it there. So there it is, and we'll hit tab just to kind of make this look a little cleaner here. And now let's get the one for the second camera here. So we'll go ahead and go back here. We will select the second camera here, the last camera. We'll generate, we'll copy, and we'll bring that over right here. And now last thing we want one more camera for when we don't want an animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our map here. We are going to we're going to focus down here. And we're going to come right over here. So this is the last camera animation. This is the one that we had in episode 2 of main menus. So main menus part 2. And what we want is when there is no animation, we want to just simply be right here. We're in the last camera spot right here with the main menu showing. We don't want to show any animations. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this one here. So I went ahead and duplicated it by hitting Control D on my keyboard. You can hit Edit and hit Duplicate, but I just hit Control D. And what I'm going to call this is No Camera Animation, and I'm just going to put _1. So it's called No Camera Animation. And we will disable the look multiplier. We want the player to look. There is no forward time. There is no auto movement. No interactive movement. And we don't want any callbacks for this one. We just want to put the player here when we look at the config file and we see that there's going to be no intro because the player already saw the intro. So we're just going to plop him down right here, and this is what he's going to be looking at. So that does that. So we have the no camera animation, and that pretty much does it for all the things we have to do in our level editor today. So let's go ahead and go back to our main menu script. And I'll zoom you guys in again. And now let's go ahead and actually start writing up the code for this intro and everything. So now that we have all this, let's go ahead and set a timer first. So we're going to create a timer. So we're going to come up here, and remember, we only want to play the animations and it's the messages and everything on the player's first entrance into this. So that's why we right here in this if statement, when we check it, if the intro has not already played, then we are gonna go ahead and play the intro. So that's gonna be right here. So I'll put a comment here just for your so you guys are aware. But this is intro has already played, and we'll put here intro hasn't played. So that way we know which one is which. And so since the intro hasn't played, first thing we're going to do, remember we are faded out from the very beginning. We already start faded out from the very beginning. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just show our message, which is the first message here, which is from the creator of Rebirth tutorials. So what we're going to say show intro message 1 equals true. And we'll go ahead and put a semicolon. So we're going to set the message to be true. So we're going to show it on screen. And then we're going to create a timer because the message is going to show. It's going to show for 2 seconds in and then 2 seconds out. So it's going to be on screen for a total of 4 seconds, the message. We want to start the cutscene for the camera animation a little bit after the message is almost faded out completely. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say map _add timer. So we're going to add a timer to right here, and we're going to call it timer _start cameras. We'll do comma space, and we're gonna start it 3 seconds after. So we're gonna start the whole animation, the whole camera animation, 3 seconds after we show the message. So message is gonna show 3 seconds later. We're gonna go ahead and start the camera animation, and in the last second, this message should fully fade out. So we'll go ahead and put comma and space here, and then we gotta go ahead and put the name of the function. So we're gonna go ahead and paste this here. The convention is to say on timer, and then whatever you're gonna do, and this is just the timer name. So that's her timer. So now let's go ahead and create our timer function. So we're going to go right here and we're going to say void, and we're going to say and we're going to copy the function name right here on timer start cameras. We'll go ahead and do parentheses and curly braces, and here we're going to say const t string, and we're going to say and in as timer. So that's you have to put this here. This is the normal for a timer. You have to put this value here, and then we can go ahead and start talking about what cameras are going to show here. So the way we're going to decide what cameras are going to show is we're going to keep track of what stage of our cutscenes we're at. Stage 1 would be the very first cutscene, stage 2 would be the second cutscene, and stage 3 would be the last cutscene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a global variable right here outside of this function. We're going to call it stage, and we're going to start at stage 1. So we're going to say int stage 1, and then what we're going to do here, we're going to say if, we'll do our curly braces, and we're going to say stage equals 1. So if we're in stage 1, we're gonna go ahead and play the first animation. If we're in stage 2, we'll play the second intro animation. If we're in stage 3, we'll play the last one. So we're gonna say else if parentheses, and we'll do another else if right here, else if parentheses, and we're gonna pretty much copy this right here. We're gonna say stage, but instead we'll do stage 2, and then we'll do stage 3. So if we're in stage 1, we'll play the first cutscene, stage 2 the second, and stage 3 the last one. So that's that. So first, before we start the camera animation, we want to make sure we actually fade in the screen from black, because remember, the screen is currently black. So we're going to say effect, fade in, and we'll fade it in 1 second, so it's not too quick. We'll fade it in 1 second. And then we'll go ahead and actually start the camera animation. So we'll say camera animation begin. And we're going to play the first one. So again, the first one is going to be this one right here. And that again is intro animation 1-1. Remember, I know it's zoomed, but you should be able to see it. Intro animation 1-1. And remember, with camera animations, we don't put anything after the underscore. We just put the first part right here. So we're going to go back and we're going to put intro animation 1, and we'll do comma space, and then we're going to say we're going to put the quotation marks here. We're going to put anything there, and then we're going to go ahead and say false. We don't want to end the camera animation when this is done, because we don't want the player to actually regain control or anything like that. So we're going to say false here, and again, since it's stage 1, we will go ahead and start camera animation 1 here. So in the event that it is stage 2, and you'll see when we're going to be changing these stages inside of these node past functions here. But first, I just want to write them all out here. So now whenever we reach stage 2, what we want to do is the same thing. We're going to go ahead and fade in the screen again. And then one important note here, since we did have a camera animation going on before, what we want to do is we want to end the previous camera animation. We never ended it here because we set this false. We want to go ahead and end the last one first before we start another one, and then we go ahead and start the other one. And this one is going to be intro animation 2 because that's the name we gave it. And then for the last stage, we're pretty much just going to copy all of this here. So we're going to just go ahead and copy and paste this. So we want to fade in the screen and the previous animation, which was this one. And then we're going to play the last camera animation of ours, which again had a different name. I will show you that in the level editor here. So that's this one right here. So it's just going to be camera animation here. So I guess I'll just copy it right here. And we'll paste it right here. We'll say camera animation, and that will be that. And that does it for the whole stage camera. So this is this is gonna keep track of pretty much what to show based on what this stage number is. And now let's talk about how we're actually gonna change the stage and everything. So we're gonna go to the camera callbacks right here. And now we're going to talk about what we're going to do here. So this is camera animation 1. So once we finish camera animation 1, we want to go ahead and fade out the screen again. So we're going to say effect fade out, and we'll fade out pretty quickly. We'll say 0.5 f, and we'll go ahead and close it out with a semicolon. And then once we're fully blacked out again, we're going to go ahead and show intro message 2. So we're going to move on to the next message, which is intro message 2, and we're going to set that equals to true. So we are going to show intro message 2. By now, that first intro message right here would have already faded out because of the way we wrote it, the way it fades out. So we don't have to worry about that being on screen. And then we will go ahead and say stage equals 2. So since we're moving on to the next message, we're now on stage 2. So we're changing this to be stage equals 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and call that timer again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste this timer right here. And we're going to go ahead and paste it right here. So now we're going to go ahead and again in 3 seconds call this timer again. And then once we get in here, it'll see that it is now stage 2. So it'll play the next camera animation, which is this one right here. And when this one finishes, when this one finishes, we're pretty much going to do the same stuff that we did in this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this and I'm going to paste it here. Again, we're going to fade out in 0.5 seconds, but instead we're going to show intro message 3. And this is now stage 3. And again, we're just going to call the same timer function right here. And that'll pretty much start create our whole sequence here. So now we're gonna scroll up here. Now pretty much everything's done for the whole animation cutscene thing. So we'll just quickly do a recap of all of this. So we have our messages here that we want to show and how they're formatted and everything, and they will automatically fade out after 2 seconds fading in and then 2 seconds fading out. So a total of 4 seconds it'll be on screen. And the way we start those is by creating a timer. So first we start faded out. The screen is first faded out in the beginning when the whole thing starts. And then we go ahead and we show the message. 3 seconds later, it is currently stage 1. So it'll go ahead and fade in the screen, start our camera animation. And once that camera animation reaches its callback here for being done, we'll fade out again to black. We'll play our intro message 2, change it to stage 2, start the timer again. 3 seconds later, after showing message 2, the timer will be up. And we will go ahead and come back into this timer. It will go ahead and fade out the screen again, or fade in the screen again, and the previous animation. Start the next animation, intro animation 2, and in intro animation 2, when that one's done, we'll repeat what we did before. It'll rinse and repeat, fade out again to black, show the next message that we want to show, change it to stage 3, start a timer so that in 3 seconds we go ahead and fade back into the next animation, and finally it's going to be stage 3. We're going to fade in, so we're going to remove the black screen and the previous animation, and start the next animation and last animation, which is this one right here. It has the on animation and callback, and I will show you that here. If we go to callbacks, on animation N, again that was from the main menus part 2 episode. And what we do in here is we go ahead and we set the main menu to show. We update our config to show that we went ahead and showed the main menu for the first time. And we wrap it up here. With that pretty much takes care of this whole fork of this showing animation. But now we need to talk about what we're going to do when we don't want to show the animation. So when the intro, this only is going to happen when the intro hasn't played, the first time the player starts up your custom story pretty much. But when the player hasn't started up has already started up your custom story, we don't want to play this whole cutscene and everything. So what we're going to do, very simple, we're going to say effect fade in. So remember, we start faded out from the very beginning on the setup. And we're going to go ahead and just fade in, and we'll fade in for 1 second so the screen is faded in. and then we'll go ahead and get the player to the position where we want it to be, which is that no camera animation position. So what we're going to say is we'll go ahead and just copy one of these statements here, camera animation begin, so I don't have to type it all out. And we're going to put the no camera animation. So that's the one that we created at the very end, so that we have no camera animation. And all this is going to remain the same. And then finally, we're going to do main menu underscore show true and close it out. So again, when the intro has already played, we will go ahead and fade in, zip the player to the last camera animation, and show the main menu. So pretty much nothing's going to happen when that's the case. So and then if the intro hasn't played yet, we will do our whole elaborate full-blown intro into our custom story. So kind of like impress the player with our cool intro and stuff. So with that, I know it was a lot of code, but with that, we are done. We are fully set up now. Let's go ahead and start up our custom story. I will load it up in no Steam mode. So I will go here, or not here. I will go to the main root directory of Amnesia Rebirth, and I will start the no Steam version here and load up the default profile. Remember, save files are stored in your custom story folder. In your custom, not in your custom story folder, in your documents folder under Amnesia Rebirth mods, and then the theme of your custom story. So in here, we're going to launch default, which is just launching the no Steam version. So there is currently no default profile. I made sure I cleared it out since we were messing around with it before. So I will go ahead and start up the no Steam version, and I will see you guys there. All right, and before we launch in, guys, I forgot to remove this old code, so let's make sure we get rid of this camera animation begin here and this effect fade in here. We don't want that there. We just want these three values to be right here. Other than that, let's go ahead and start up our game in no Steam mode and check it out. And there we are, guys. That's our super cool, super cinematic intro. And that's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If we do talk about main menus in a future episode, we might be talking about like the actual script. But I think that wraps up for just working on our main menu here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I know it was a lot of coding and stuff, and it was a long one, but it was definitely a very cool intro. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment if you have any questions or anything that you guys want to see. Subscribe if you're already subscribed, and like the video if you haven't already done so. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.